Whoa. Boy, it looks different in here with natural lighting. It's getting warm outside, so it's occurred to me that I should probably, start opening our blinds once in a while. So I've got them up in the bedroom, and I've got them open right here. And it looks pretty nice. Look at how not white my skin looks, is basically what I want to point out. Everyone's like, you look so pale, you look so sick. It's not me, it's the camera. It's when I do this. Ah! Okay. Anyway, the reason why I'm here, sorry for the loud ruckus, is because I want to respond. Sean and Carter Have a Podcast last week went over 2 hours for the first time ever. I think it's okay. It's mostly because we talked about Marble Hornets for nearly an hour. That's going to happen. We did so much Marble Hornets that week that it was warranted. So I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was okay. No one complained that it was too long, but you might have just not listened to it, which is not good, but okay, we'll take it. Anyway, someone who did listen to it, two people who listened to it, are Elaine and Ron. Elaine, 8-Bit Dame, and Ron Smellick decided to post a response, which, if you're going to respond to a 2-hour podcast, you better respond with at least an hour, and they did. So our podcast and their response will be linked in the info. Now, they had a response that went over an hour. Believe it or not, I found a few things that I wanted to say in response to their response. So go ahead and make an Inception joke here, and let's get started. Elaine said, she made a point about how, she was talking about the Hunger Games, and she said something about how this seems to be the age of the book blockbuster, where movie studios are turning books into major motion pictures. Well, Elaine, I'm going to say welcome to the last 100 years of cinema. This has been happening since Hollywood came to exist. The earliest adaptions were like the Bible and Frankenstein, and those two are not related. Actually, they are, via Paradise Lost, but never mind. Basically, Hollywood and the motion picture industry has always been converting books. Some of the biggest, most famous movies ever made were books. The Wizard of Oz, Gone with the Wind. Seriously, that's just, they convert Bridge Over the River Kwai. Like, Hollywood likes converting books. Now, what you're actually talking about and what you're seeing, this trend that you're seeing, I would not call it the age of the book blockbuster. I would call it the age of the book franchise. Movie studios love, I mean, they operate as a business. They are a business. They don't worry about the creative side of things. That's for someone else to handle. So a wise investor is going to look for a cheap, but good, dependable, sufficient piece of business. And what better thing to go look for than a series that is already well established, comes with its own fan base. It has a marketable future because someone is already working out all the kinks of what's going to happen in the future, and they buy it. And that's what happened with Harry Potter. That's what happened with Twilight. That's what happened with the Hunger Games. Producers look for things like this that are going to be highly profitable because they already exist. The writing's already done. You just need to adapt it. And the fan base is already built in. And that's what you're talking about, Elaine. Because you can apply this to a lot of things that are not books. You can apply it to graphic novels. You can apply it to comics, which are graphic novels but not. You can apply it to TV shows. Like, producers want to grab these things and pull them in because of money. Wow, that is the first point I wanted to make, and we're already at 4 minutes. Okay, I liked that you called Carter and I intelligent people who like to reflect. Thanks for that. Elevator logic, we'll talk about that on the podcast. Inside of a colored pencil, we'll talk about that on the podcast. Ultraviolet. Okay. Elaine made the point that her second worst movie of all time is Ultraviolet, which I believe stars Charlize Theron. Am I right? Ultraviolet. I have seen this movie. I didn't think it was that bad. Apparently, oh, not Charlize. That was the other one like Ultraviolet. Ultraviolet was Mila Jovovich. What's the movie that I'm thinking of? Charlize Theron. She was in a movie that was so similar. Filmography. Isn't it fun when you watch me use the internet? It was Aeon Flux. Wait. Oh, shoot. I haven't seen Okay, I lied. I haven't seen Ultraviolet. Have I? No. Whoops. Okay, so never mind. I'm going to back out of everything I was about to say about that. I don't know anything about Ultraviolet. Maybe it is that. Maybe it really is that bad. I was going to make the point about Ion Flux or Eon Flux that it was based on an MTV series that at the end of it the character always died. But we're talking about two completely different movies. So, never mind, I don't have a point about that. Okay, so her least favorite movie, which I also haven't seen, but I know that in advance this time, is The Last Airbender. Avatar The Last Airbender. And I wrote that down because I have a little story to tell. I like M. Night Shyamalan. I like Even the Village, which seems to be one of his most reviled movies. Lady in the Water was when I finally was like, okay, yeah, you're right. He's losing it. And then The Happening, didn't see. Evil Trees. So, The Last Airbender, when I made the first 5 things, I was at the height of my interest in Nickelodeon's The Last Airbender, which is peaking again because if you haven't heard The Legend of Korra, which debuts, I don't think it's this year, I think it is next year, but I don't remember. But the first episode, at least, has leaked online. I have not watched it yet, but I might go in search of a leak, because I wouldn't mind seeing it early. Anyway, M. Night Shyamalan adapted this new movie, The Legend of Airbender, The Legend of the Airbender? The Last Airbender, from the Nickelodeon series, the original series. And apparently he ruined it. And I made it a thing on the very first 5 things, because I didn't know he was going to ruin it. I just had a teaser trailer that had like a 1-second shot of Appa, and I was like, this is going to be amazing! And we all know how that worked out. But I never saw it because of how bad apparently it was. Ugh, it's just disastrous. I'm going to answer the Ron's question of socks versus barefoot right now because I actually already have answered this question. I have this condition. It's not a condition. I have a symptom of something called hyperhidrosis where my palms, it's doing it right now, my palms and the bottoms of my feet sweat. For no reason. I'm just sitting still right now. I'm not doing any activity and my hands are wet. And it's gross, and I freaking hate it. And there are ways to make it go away, but they involve me getting drunk. Or they involve me wearing socks. So I can't really do bare feet because I have to wear socks to stop my feet from sweating. Which is really gross, but that, I don't know, it's what I have to deal with. I've had it ever since I was a kid, and it's never gone away, and it's never gotten better, and it's never gotten worse. So there's that. Next, Google Play, Elaine brought up, which is now called, or was called Google Music, is now called Google Play. I don't know if she was confused or I assumed wrong, but it sounded like she was talking about it as if it was a brand new service. It's not. It's Google Play. It's existed, it was actually active before iCloud was active. I think that's why I wrote it down, because she made it sound like they were following iCloud. iCloud was probably announced first, but Google beat them to the punch with Google Music. I enlisted in a beta months ago, and I sent out invitations to a couple people who asked when I talked about it. And I've been using Google Music on my phone to stream my music from the cloud for months and months. And besides Spotify, it is the only source of music that I use on my phone. I also use it all the time on my computer. I never use iTunes anymore. I sync with the cloud, and then I use Google Music, or Google Play, or whatever the hell it is. Check. And the last thing I want to talk about, and I probably want to talk about this on the podcast, so Carter, hopefully you made it this far. The death of the author. Carter hates talking about postmodernism because it's a silly term that covers way too many things, and it's often applied in the wrong way. But there is a postmodern theory called the death of the author. And these two were talking about, I don't remember what they were talking about specifically, but they were talking about, it was Bioshock. Not Bioshock. Mass Effect. It was Mass Effect. the ending that everyone's so upset about was the creative expression of the authors who have been working on the story. People weren't happy about it, and they're upset, and they're replacing it with a new ending. Death of the author is this theory that says once a product is released, a creative work, whether it's a piece of art, like literally a piece of art on a canvas, or a book, or a short story, or a film, or a TV show, or whatever. Once it escapes the original author, and he or she has released it into the world, and it is in the hands of the people, the author no longer has a hold on it. That means that what you infer from the story and the text and everything is all you should be able to infer. If you read it and you say, I believe that this story means X, Y, and the author says, no, that's never what I intended, it was supposed to mean X, X, that's bullcrap. You, as the reader, get to choose what it means. You get to decide what it is. The author is completely removed from it. They don't get to tell you what it means. You don't get to look at the author's life and they're like, well, they grew up in the 70s and they had a younger sister which may have inferred this character here and they may have drawn this inspiration from this. Don't do that. Death of the author states you're not supposed to think about any of that stuff. When you go to school and the teachers want you to learn about Samuel Clemens' life and Mark Twain and Mark Twain and all this stuff, that should, according to postmodern theory, that shouldn't matter. You should not be thinking about any of that. As far as you're concerned, the author is mud. And all that matters is what you get out of the story. And I like that. I like that theory in general. I love knowing about the creators, and I love talking about inspirations and stuff. But I do like the feeling that if I watch this episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer and I infer this from it, even if Joss says, no, that's not what I meant, I can still think that, and it's right. So that's the way Mass Effect 3 ended up, that a lot of people were really upset and they weren't getting out of it what they wanted. They complained to the author. The author should have said, you get out of it what you get out of it. That's your problem if you don't like it. But we all know how that turned out. Anyway, okay, 2-hour podcast, 1-hour response, 13-minute response to a 1-hour response. I think that's accurate. So now Elaine or Ron have to post a response to this that is something like a minute and a half long, maybe. Click.